Scafell Pike is the highest mountain in England, at an elevation of 978 metres above sea level. It is located in Lake District National Park, in Cumbria. It is part of the Southern Fells. Topography: Scafell Pike is one of a horseshoe of high fells, open to the south, surrounding the head of Eskdale, Cumbria. It stands on the western side of the cirque, with Scafell to the south and Great End to the north. This ridge forms the watershed between Eskdale and Wasdale, which lies to the west. The narrowest definition of Scafell Pike begins at the ridge of Mickledore in the south, takes in the wide, stony summit area and ends at the next depression, Broad Crag Col, c. 920 m. A more inclusive view also takes in two further tops, Broad Crag, 934 m and Ill Crag, 935 m, the two being separated by Ill Crag Kernel. This is the position taken by most guidebooks. North of Ill Crag is the more definite depression of Calf Cove at 850 m, before the ridge climbs again to Great End. Scafell Pike also has outliers on either side of the ridge. Lingmore, to the northwest, is invariably regarded as a separate fell, while Penn, 760 m, a shapely summit above the Esk, is normally taken as a satellite of the Pike. Middle Boot Knots is a further top lying on the Wasdale slopes of Broad Crag, which is listed as a nuthall. The rough summit plateau is fringed by crags on all sides, with Pike's Crag and Dropping Crag above Wasdale and Rough Crag to the east. Below Rough Crag and Penn is a further tear, named Dow Crag and Central Pillar on Ordnance Survey maps, although known as Esk Buttress among climbers. Esk Buttress and Pike's Crag are well-known rock climbing venues. Broad Crag Col is the source of Little Narrowcove Beck in the east and of Piers Gill in the west. The latter works its way around Lingmore to Wastwater through a spectacular ravine, one of the most impressive in the Lake District. It is treacherous in winter, as when it freezes over it creates an icy patch, with lethal exposure should you slip. Broad Crag is a small top with its principal face on the west and the smaller Green Crag looking down on Little Narrowcove. From Broad Crag, the ridge turns briefly east across Ill Crag Col and onto the shapely pyramidal summit of Ill Crag. Here, the main crags are on the Eskdale side, Ill Crag having little footing, Clarify, in Wasdale. Scafell Pike has a claim to the highest standing water in England, although Fox's Tarn on Scafell is of similar height. The water body in question is Broad Crag Tarn, which is on Scafell Pike proper, rather than Broad Crag. It lies at about 820 m, a quarter of a mile south of the summit. The summit ridge from Ill Crag to Mickledore is notoriously stony, the surface being composed in many places of fields of boulders. Paths are not marked by the usual erosion of soil, but by coloured marks on the rock following the passage of many thousands of booted feet. The summits of Ill and Broad Crags are bypassed by the ridge path, but it leads unerringly to the highest point. This bears an Ordnance Survey triangulation column beside a massive cairn, not now in the best of repair, but unmistakable from any distance, still 6 feet high and much greater in diameter. A little distance away is the lower South Peak. Summit. The summit was donated to the National Trust in 1919 by Lord Leconfield in perpetual memory of the men of the Lake District who fell for God and King, for freedom, peace and right in the Great War 1914–1918. There is a more well-known war memorial on Great Gable, commemorating the members of the Fell and Rock Climbing Club. Scafell Pike is one of 3 British peaks climbed as part of the National Three Peaks Challenge, and is the highest ground for over 90 miles. Geology: Scafell Pike consists of igneous rock dating from the Ordovician. It is geologically part of the Borrowdale Volcanics. The summit plateau of Scafell Pike, and that of other neighbouring peaks, is covered with shattered rock debris which provides the highest altitude example of a summit boulder field in England. The boulder field is thought to have been caused in part by weathering, such as frost action. Additional factors are also considered to be important, however opinion varies as to what these may be. James Clifton Ward suggested that weathering with earthquakes as a secondary agent could be responsible, while John Edward Marr and Reginald Aldworth Daly believed that earthquakes were unnecessary and suggested that frost action with other unspecified agents was more likely. To the north of the summit are a number of high-altitude gills which flow into Lingmel Beck. These are good examples in Cumbria for this type of gill and are also biologically important due to their species richness. Ascent routes. From Wasdale. The ascent of the Pike is most often attempted from Wasdale Head. This is at the north end of Wastwater to the west of the Pike, and is at about 80 metres above sea level. There is a famous climbers' hotel here, the Wasdale Head Inn, made popular in the Victorian period by Owen Glyn-Jones and others. On summer weekends, crowds of people can be found attempting the steep but straightforward walk. An alternative ascent from Wasdale approaches Upper Hanging Valley whose head is at Mickledore, which is itself ascended, before following the path from Scafell to the Pike. From Borrowdale. A more taxing, but scenically far superior, approach begins at Seathwaite Farm at the end of Borrowdale, proceeding via Styrehead Tarn, then taking the corridor route, a delightful walk along the western flank of the Scafell Massif with intimate views of the fell, before joining the route from Wasdale near the summit. The return journey can then be made along a high ridge, taking in any or all of the neighbouring summits of Broad Crag, Hill Crag, Great End, Allen Crags and Glaramara. An alternative route from Borrowdale, longer but perhaps less taxing than that via the corridor route, runs from Seathwaite via Grangegill and the high pass of Eskhors. From Langdale. A further ascent may be made from Langdale. From the old Dungeon Gill Hotel, the route proceeds up alongside Rossett Gill, past Angle Tarn, and then on to Eskhors before joining a rocky path to the summit. Energetic walkers can vary the return route by ascending Esk Pike and Bowfell from Eskhors and then descend Bowfell via the Band. Another variant which avoids simply returning down Rossett Gill is to head north at the Angle Tarn, over Rossett Pike to join the Cumbrian Way, and descend via Stake Pass adding a mile to the walk. The total distance is about 21 kilometres. Eskhors is also accessible from Styrehead Tarn, making another possible route from Seathwaite. From Eskdale. Another ascent can be made from Eskdale, the longest and most arduous way up, but it has some very fine scenery. The route follows the River Esk as far as the Great Moss Boggy Plateau. Walkers then have a choice of ascending steeply up to Mickledore, the low ridge between Scafell and Scafell Pike, or following the Esk to its source at Eskhors. A third possible route up from Great Moss is Little Narrowcove, a steep ascent which emerges onto the ridge a few hundred metres northeast of the summit. Naming history, Scafell Pike is sometimes confused with the neighbouring Scafell, to which it is connected by the Col of Mickledore. The name the Pikes of Scafell, or just the Pikes, was originally applied collectively to the peaks now known as Scafell Pike, Hill Crag and Broad Crag, which were considered subsidiary tops of Scafell. The application of the name Scafell Pike or Scafell Pike was a compromise that occurred sometime after 1818 but before 1856. Before then, England's highest mountain did not have a name of its own. Until Scafell Pike was measured early in the 19th century, many believed Helvellyn to be the highest mountain in England. Prior to this compromise, the Ordnance Survey called Scafell Pike and Scafell Higher Top and Scafell Lower Top. The old spelling Scafell was in common use, except on Ordnance Survey maps, until about 1920 see Scafell for a fuller explanation. This may be the source of the belief that the OS made an error in naming this mountain but they simply chose an unusual spelling. Survey point: Scafell Pike was used in 1826 as a station in the principal triangulation of Britain by the Ordnance Survey when they fixed the relative positions of Britain and Ireland. Angles between Slievetonard and Snowdon were taken from Scafell Pike, as were angles measured from stations on each of the other two mountains. Given the need for clear weather to achieve these very long-range observations, the Ordnance surveyors spent most of the summer camped on the respective mountain tops. Strangely, Scafell Pike was not used as a station in the earlier part of the principal triangulation of Britain, even though Scafell formed one corner of a principal triangle. Gallery. Views from the summit. Summer winter Visible Marilyns. As the highest ground in England, Scafell Pike naturally has a very extensive view, ranging from the Mourne Mountains to Snowdonia. On a clear day, The following Marylands can be seen from the summit. The data is from the first external link below. North Dunrig, 77 miles, 2 degrees, Binsey, 18 miles, 2 degrees, Turner-Clutch-Law, 71 miles, 4 degrees, Dalehead, 5 miles, 5 degrees, Wisp Hill, 58 miles, 11 degrees, Skidad, 14 miles, 12 degrees, Roanfell, 55 miles, 15 degrees, Knott, 17 miles, 17 degrees, Peel Fell, 63 miles, 24 degrees, Blencathra, 14 miles, 28 degrees, the Cheviot, 83 miles, 31 degrees, Coldfell, 39 miles, 39 degrees. East Hogill Fells, 29 miles, 103 degrees, Bowfell, 2 miles, 105 degrees, Yorkshire Three Peaks, 3644 and 38 miles, 119 degrees, Boulsworth Hill, 63 miles, 135 degrees, Pendle Hill, 55 miles, 138 degrees, Wardstone, 38 miles, 142 degrees, the Old Man of Coniston, 7 miles, 149 degrees, Winter Hill, 64 miles, 154 degrees. South Scafell, 1 mile, 228 degrees, Snaefell, 52 miles, 257 degrees, Sleeve-Tonard, 111 miles, 262 degrees, Slieve-Croob, 112 miles, 268 degrees. West Benared, 80 miles, 303 degrees, Merrick, 69 miles, 315 degrees, Pillar, 4 miles, 318 degrees, Cairnsmore of Carsfen, 68 miles, 326 degrees, High Style, 6 miles, 328 degrees, Criffel, 37 miles, 334 degrees, Grismore, 8 miles, 342 degrees, Great Gable, 2 miles, 351 degrees. See also: Langdale Axe Industry, List of mountains and hills of the United Kingdom, Geology of the United Kingdom, List of fells in the Lake District. References. External links: Computer-generated virtual panoramas North-South Index. Scafell Pike is at coordinates 54.454435 a degree n 3.210168 a degree w/54.454435 -3.210168.